Okay, I want you to picture something. Go back with me. A time before there was time. A space beyond the very idea of space. We're in a silent, infinite expanse, a kind of celestial court, just waiting for the first command to be written. See, before you can build a universe, you have to choose its foundational programming language. And the candidates? They're not lines of code like we'd think of them. No, they are 22 fundamental forces. 22 living, breathing energies, all lined up to present their case in what you could only call a divine audition. We're talking about the Hebrew letters, each one a potential blueprint for reality itself.
So here's our roadmap for this incredible journey. We're going to step right into that celestial courtroom and witness the audition for ourselves. And here's the twist. We're starting from the very last letter and working our way backwards. We'll get to see which of these cosmic protocols were rejected and why. We'll find out which one was finally chosen to build reality. And most importantly, we're going to explore what this ancient primal code means for you and me, right here, right now.
Now, before we go any further, we have to completely shift how we think about a letter. Forget the alphabet you learned in school. The Book of Zohar, which is this foundational text of Jewish mysticism, tells us that these 22 letters are actually primal energies. Seriously, think of them like modular components in a divine programming language. Each letter is its own unique protocol. One might be the protocol for absolute truth, another for divine power, a third for kindness. And each one was completely convinced that it had the perfect architecture to serve as the root function for all of creation. The ultimate cosmic competition was on.
So the audition kicks off, but it's in reverse, which is so fascinating. The Zohar explains that the letters came forward from last to first, from Tav all the way back to Aleph. So the very first candidate to step before the throne of glory isn't Aleph, the first letter. No, it's the very last letter of the alphabet, the letter Tav. Can you just imagine it? Descending from the upper worlds, this radiant form of black fire engraved upon shimmering white fire. The letter Tav just materializes. I mean, its very shape speaks of finality, of completion. It's a perfect seal, and it carries this immense weight of the ultimate, unshakable attribute it represents.
And its voice just echoes through the cosmos. Master of the universe, create the world with me. Why? Because I am the seal of your very essence. Truth. Now think about this. The Hebrew word for truth is Emet. It's spelled Aleph, Mem, Tav. It starts with the very first letter of the alphabet, and it ends with the very last, Tav. This signifies a total, all-encompassing, absolute truth. So Tav is arguing, look, if you found reality on this absolute, unchanging principle, it would be perfect and eternal. What could possibly be a better foundation than that? It sounds like a slam dunk.
But the divine engineer sees a fatal system flaw. The creator responds, "You are worthy, but you cannot be the beginning of my creation." And you have to wonder, why not? Well, because while Tav is the seal of truth, Emet, it is also the final letter of the word for death, Mavet. It's the mark of doom. So from a cosmic engineering perspective, you just can't build a sustainable system on a protocol that hard-codes its own termination at the root level. For all the kids watching, this is like trying to start a video game where your main character's special power is also the game over screen. You can't begin with the end. It creates a world that's just destined for failure from the get-go. So Tav is dismissed. So as Tav recedes, another brilliant form emerges, the letter Shin. And wow, its three prongs reach upward like a crown of divine fire, symbolizing immense power and holiness. You can just feel this sacred energy radiating from it, and it has an equally powerful claim of its own.
Shin's argument is really, really compelling. It declares, Master of the universe, with me you should create the world, because your own holy name, Shaddai, the Almighty Sustainer, it begins with me. The logic seems flawless. A world built upon divine power and sustenance, it would be unshakable, right? If not absolute truth, then surely divine power is the right foundation for all of reality? But again, the divine architect sees a vulnerability in the source code. Here's the problem. Shin's immense power can be hijacked. You see, to form the Hebrew word Sheker, which means falsehood, you need the letters Kaf and Resh, but you have to add Shin. Together, those three form the core of what the mystics call the assembly of falsehood. It's a huge system vulnerability, so the core protocol can't contain this inherent backdoor to deception. To go back to our video game analogy, this is like building the entire game world around a hero who has this built-in weakness that allows the main villain to perfectly impersonate it at any time. It's a non-starter. And so the holy letter Shin is also, regretfully, turned away.
Okay, so the procession continues, letter after letter. And each one, as worthy as it is found to contain some kind of seed of negativity, a link to judgment or imbalance that makes it totally unfit to be the foundation of everything. But then, the pattern changes. Something different happens. 2 letters approach the throne, not alone, but together, as a single interdependent pair.
And they are Gimel and Dalet. You know, their very shapes tell their story. The Gimel looks like a figure running forward to give something, while the Dalet is kind of bent over in need, ready to receive. They are completely intertwined, and together they represent this core social function that's absolutely essential to any world that would contain humanity.
Their argument is like a duet. They say, create the world with us. Gimel bestows kindness, gomel chesed, but that kindness has to have a recipient. Dalet represents the poor, the dalim, who need that kindness. So one literally cannot exist without the other. They argue that this dynamic, this beautiful engine of giving and receiving, is the very soul of a compassionate world.
But the Creator's response here reveals a really deep principle of cosmic engineering. He says, it is enough for you to be together. You require one another and must not be separated. The logic here is just profound. The root function of creation, the absolute base layer of reality, it has to be self-sufficient. A protocol that requires a dependency just to express its own core function, that's not suitable. It creates a system that, from the moment it begins, is defined by lack rather than by self-contained wholeness. Gimel and Dalet are absolutely essential for the world, but they can't be the letters to begin the world.
So after all these rejections, a hush just falls over the celestial court. I mean, think about it. Truth, holiness, power, kindness, they've all been found wanting. The very potential for creation is just hanging in the balance. And then this new energy fills the space. The letter Bet confidently comes forward. Its shape is so telling. It's closed on 3 sides, but it's open on one, just like a house ready to welcome you in.
And Bet makes its case, and honestly, it is flawless. First, it says, with me all beings bless you. The word for blessing, bracha, begins with me. Simple, powerful. Second, I am the very first letter of the Torah itself, the blueprint of creation, which begins with the word Bereshit, in the beginning. See, Bet doesn't claim to be some abstract, absolute quality like truth. Instead, it offers a functional process. It presents itself as a vessel for blessing and as a tool for beginning.
And the Creator immediately agrees. Indeed, with you I shall create the world. So what is so fascinating about this choice? Bet gets selected not because it's the most powerful or the most holy, but because it is the perfect entry point. It's the perfect container protocol. Its whole function is to initiate, as in Bereshit, and to sustain through a positive flow of blessing, Bersha. The universe, it turns out, is founded not on some harsh absolute principle, but on the potential for blessing. Creation finally has its starting command.
So the cosmic code is chosen. That first line is written Bereshit. Creation begins to unfold. But hold on, a profound mystery is just hanging in the air. A dramatic silence fills the celestial court. The first letter, the greatest of them all, the source of them all, has not spoken a single word.
Aleph didn't enter the audition. It didn't make a claim. It just stood back, completely silent, completely still. And so the Creator turns to it and asks, Aleph, Aleph, why did you not enter before me like all the other letters? Its absence, you see, is more powerful than any speech could ever be.
And Aleph's response just reveals its true nature. It says, Master of the universe, I saw you have already given this great gift to Bet, and it's not fitting for a supreme king to take back a gift he has given to his servant just to give it to another. Now, this isn't just humility. This is an expression of perfect alignment with the divine will, a total understanding of the entire system's architecture. And this, right here, is the ultimate secret. Aleph could never be the tool of creation, because it is the source of creation. Let's go back to our cosmic engineering analogy. If Bet is the main function, the first application that runs, then Aleph is the root kernel. It's the underlying operating system. It represents Echad, the absolute, silent oneness from which everything emerges. It isn't a function within the system. It literally is the system itself. And so the Creator bestows upon Aleph the highest possible honor. Because of this, he says, though Bet will begin the act of creation, you, Aleph, will be the first of all the letters. All calculations of unity will begin with you. And the absolute pinnacle of history, the giving of the Torah at Sinai, will begin with your sound, with the word Anoshi, I am. Aleph is crowned.
not as the tool, but as the silent foundational source of all unity and all revelation.
Okay, so we've just witnessed this absolutely incredible cosmic drama, right? This divine debugging session at the very dawn of time. But this isn't just some ancient story. This is the source code for our reality. So the big question is, what does this divine architecture, this primal choice of Bay and the silent supremacy of Aleph, what does it teach us about how we should build our own lives?
Well, the crucial takeaway here is that our lives are really built on these two foundational principles. We absolutely need the Bet principle, that active energy of beginning every project, every relationship, every single new day from a place of bracha, of blessing. We have to consciously create these positive, open containers for our actions to have any chance of success. But at the same time, we also needed awareness of the Aleph principle, that silent, unifying oneness that's humming behind all the noise and all the chaos. So in short, our actions need the container of Bet to begin with blessing, but our soul needs the awareness of Aleph to remember the unity behind it all. We need both the application and the operating system to live a truly integrated life.
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.